Welcome to the No Sugarcoating Podcast. I am Amber Romaniuk, emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. I am also the founder of amberapproved.ca. I support professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. This podcast provides the honest truth on what you really need to create body freedom. The No Sugarcoating Podcast provides information on healthy living, lifestyle changes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of your healthcare practitioner regarding your health and nutrition program. Hello, everybody. Happy episode 183 of the No Sugarcoating Podcast. This week, I am talking about how emotional eating fuels inflammation and weight struggles, and tips to navigate inflammation. This is a really big epidemic. I see tons of inflammation all the time with my clients, and there's many different things that I feel can contribute from both an emotional and physical standpoint, not to mention environmental. So I'm really looking forward to sharing more with you guys today. And I'm going to dive right into the show notes so that I can get right into today's topics. So you can find the show notes for today's episode at amberapproved.ca/podcast/183. A friendly reminder to subscribe to the No Sugarcoating Podcast on all podcast apps. You can click the link in the show notes as well. You can go to amberapproved.ca/podcast to listen to all episodes. So it's May, we're in mid-May now. I can't believe it. 5.5 months into the year, summer is coming, or maybe for some of you, summer is already here. Maybe you're stressing about your body image. Maybe you're stressing about fitting into that bathing suit or that perfect summer dress. Maybe half of your closet doesn't fit right now because you've fallen back into emotional eating or you've gained weight and you can't, for the life of you, figure out how to get it off. I know body shame and feeling uncomfortable with weight gain can be tough. But there is a better way than shaming your body, dieting, and pressuring yourself to try and have the perfect summer body. So what if instead of fearing judgment or being hard on yourself, you choose to build body-loving confidence? You choose to get to the bottom of why you're struggling with emotional eating, restrictive diets, negative body talk, and what if you could shift all of that and have food and body freedom? What if you could accept where you are in your journey and be grateful for you and support optimal health? What if you could compliment yourself and have fun regardless of what you are wearing and who you are with? Wouldn't that feel amazing? I promise it's possible, step by step, one step at a time. If you are wanting to build a healthy body image, if you're wanting to improve your energy, calm that bloating and digestive symptoms down, and you're really wanting to overcome emotional eating and be guided at step by step, each step of the way, I encourage you to reach out for support to learn more about the tools and awareness that will build this body freedom and optimal health so you can enjoy your summer and thereafter with confidence. So you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line Summer Coaching Sale to save big on my 6-month and 1-year coaching programs. So I'll help you ease into the summer and fall proud of yourself for being happy in your body instead of hiding at home in shame and being hard on yourself. That is truly what freedom is about, so you can be present every moment and really enjoy your life rather than playing a small game of life because you don't like the way that you look. Again, you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca. I look forward to connecting with you. Can't wait to have a conversation. And if you're wondering if you're struggling with emotional eating, be sure to take my emotional eating quiz as well as watch the emotional eating video series at amberapproved.ca. Both the links are in the show notes, and again, you can click right through. Last but not least, make sure you're following me on Instagram at Amber Romaniuk, as this is where I share lots of health tips, emotional eating inspiration, recipes, Instagram stories, lives, and more. So again, that is at Amber Romaniuk. So thank you for the reviews, the ratings, the emails, and all the positive feedback and comments that I get from all the listeners around the world. There's multiple countries that listen, and I'm very grateful and thankful for your support and the fact that you guys keep listening. If you would like to support the podcast, you can do so by leaving a review. And how do you do that? Well, you go to your phone or computer, go to podcasts, search for the No Sugarcoating Podcast. Even if you're subscribed to me, this is how you'll need to find the show. Once you're on my main page, you can click on reviews, write a review in purple, give me 5 stars if you like, write a little something. You can also go to amberapproved.ca/review, and it will take you to the page where you can follow the steps that I've just shared. If you have questions, you can submit them to info@amberapproved.ca. I please ask that questions are no more than 150 words in length, as health histories need more support, and one-on-one coaching or another coaching program that I offer will probably be a better fit. And if you're finding a specific eating style is not working for you, you're struggling with emotional eating, food addiction, digestive issues and bloating, inflammation, you suspect your hormones are out of balance, your self-care continues to be a struggle, you're your last priority, you're fighting with your body and your weight, and you're just done with all of that, well, you're in the right place, because these are all the topics and habits that I'm going to continue to talk about to help you really set yourself on a different path, a path of true balance. Amber Approved offers private coaching for hormonal imbalances, weight loss and digestive issues, emotional eating, and more. Contact Amber at amberapproved.ca to book your 30-minute complimentary consultation today. So one interesting thing that I read today, and I had a pretty big feeling, but inflammation is the theme today, and I'm going to be talking about both physical and emotional ways that I think we contribute to building inflammation in the body, but it is a huge issue, and it affects so many different age groups. It's not just one. I read a stat that was mentioning around 36.5% of the US, and I'm sure Canada's honestly not far behind, but about 36.5% of adults struggle with obesity, and one of its most common health complications is chronic inflammation, because as you have more fat cells, it does produce more inflammation. And with skin allergies and food sensitivities and respiratory allergies, it's in the millions with children and, adults of 18 years old and then below. There's like millions of inflammatory issues. And I really think that skin allergies and lots of respiratory stuff and food sensitivities and weight and many things are impacted by this high level of inflammation. So if you are curious about inflammation, if you feel like you're struggling with inflammation, perhaps you have some of the symptoms and signs of inflammation that I'm going to be talking about today, I would highly encourage you to get support, whether it's me or someone else, to get help with navigating your inflammation, because it's usually not just contributed to by one thing. There are usually like many parts of many different aspects that contribute to inflammation, and we really want to calm the storm down. I used to have tons of inflammation, and I see my clients, especially when I first start working with them, tons of inflammation. And as we go along, the shifting is profound. I've had clients who have had such bad digestive pain and bloating or so many food sensitivities that they just feel sensitive to everything. And then once we support and calm the inflammation down, overcome emotional eating, manage stressors, all of a sudden these people are having minimal to no digestive symptoms after having symptoms for years or decades. And all of a sudden, we update that food sensitivity test and it's coming back with minimal to no reactions. So it just is so profound to show you what's possible when we shift the mind and shift the body and get the stress out of the body. So how emotional eating fuels inflammation. I think that this is so huge, because like 99% of the people who I work with or who email me, or I know a lot of you that listen to this podcast, have or may be struggling with emotional eating. If you're not, I think that there's still many components of what I'm going to talk about here in this first point that will resonate for you in different ways. So emotional eating really fuels in the inflammation in many ways. So I think one of the biggest things is the act of emotional eating or binge eating, and the level of stress that puts on the body. Because let's face it, when you're emotional eating, it's usually because of some form of stress or boredom or negative emotion or craving. Maybe you're tired, and of course, being tired produces inflammation. It impacts your blood sugar, your insulin, your appetite levels. So that in itself is a whole other conversation to have. But when you forcefully overeat or binge, and you're doing it regularly, and you're eating multiple food items, or you're eating a whole bag of chips, or you're eating, lots of candy or chocolate and refined sugar, wheat, dairy, refined foods, deep fried foods, fast foods, this in itself is enough to produce inflammation in the body, because these ingredients are either chemically made, like things like MSG, aspartame, refined sugar. They produce an inflammatory response in the body. And so inflammation shows up in the signs of retention or swelling, redness, heat, or pain. And as I go through, I'll describe more symptoms and what those can look like. But many people experience different forms of inflammation. Maybe you're experiencing all kinds of inflammation. But when you forcefully eat a lot, the act of forcefully eating a lot creates inflammation. And then thereafter, the negative emotions that you experience, I believe, create inflammation. So anything that puts your body into a fight or flight, like anger, especially anger is all about inflammation. If you read more into people like Louise L. Hay, who are like world influencers on the fact that she says, and I believe this, your cells listen to your thoughts and respond to your thoughts, and your thoughts create your future. And then, of course, your cells align with that. So if you're somebody who experiences a lot of anger because you struggle to lose weight, you're fighting with your body, you're angry with your body, you're angry because you can't overcome emotional eating because you think you don't, quote unquote, have enough willpower. Let me first tell you, it's not about willpower. It's about learning how to end the vicious cycle. But if you experience a lot of anger, I can guarantee you your body's experiencing a high level of inflammation, because anger really is the emotional manifestation of inflammation as well. The more negative emotion you have, the more fight or flight your body goes into. That's the stress response. And the longer you're in that stress response and the more intense it is, any kind of stress on the body can impact increasing your levels of inflammation. I really believe I used to experience this as well. So it'd be like if I'd get really angry or frustrated or upset about something, and then I'd be really sad and like really emotional about it for hours or really longer periods of time, then I'd be so bloated and I'd be in pain. It wouldn't necessarily be from eating anything, or then I'd get more puffy. I'd notice my face and especially my abdominal, certain areas of my body would just feel so much more swelling and water retention. So it's very interesting to see how emotions and mindset can contribute to physical symptoms. I really don't believe it's all physical. I believe that there is definitely an emotional component to these physical symptoms that we're experiencing. And again, if you not only listen to people like me, but you listen to Louise L. Hay, Wayne Dyer, Bob Proctor, they all talk about this as well. And these are world-renowned leading experts in their fields. And whilst Wayne and Louise, God rest their souls, have passed away, they've left a legacy and had a profound impact on the world. So I really believe that the forceful act of emotional eating or binge eating really fuels inflammation from a food aspect, from that you're overeating, and that puts a lot of stress on your whole digestive system, your hormones, your digestive organs, your circulatory system, your lymphatic system, your immune system. And so if you're continuously doing that over and over again, and then you're getting angry and you're feeling guilty and a lot of shame for doing that, then again, what starts to happen is then the emotional stress you experience before, during, and after binge eating or emotionally eating, that also fuels the fight or flight response further, and I think further contributes to inflammation. And then we have the other aspect, which is then a lot of people go to diets. They go to starvation, calorie restriction, fasting, ways to compensate for having too many calories or overeating. And so then if you're not eating enough, you're deciding you're skipping meals through the day, you're skipping breakfast, or maybe you're going, I don't have time, which again is just another story and another important reason to get support or to learn how to really build a healthy schedule to support your health. But as we do these things and then you don't drink water, you don't get enough sleep, what happens is, again, that fuels more inflammation, because if you're not eating enough, that's a huge stressor on the body. Perhaps you're trying to eat in a certain way because it claims to help you lose weight, or it claims to help you, get rid of your cravings and stop emotionally eating. But maybe some of those foods don't agree with your body or don't agree with your digestive system. And so you're having more bloating, more discomfort, more pain. That's inflammation. And then that just fuels overall more inflammation throughout your entire body. My digestive system used to be like a war zone. I used to have so much inflammation because of the forceful binge eating 3 or 4 days in a row, and then going into restriction for a week or two, and then falling back into binge eating. And sometimes I'd binge eat for weeks and weeks and weeks. And those were some of the worst times, because I'd gain so much weight. I'd feel so awful physically and emotionally. And I just got so puffy and so inflamed. And there would be times where I could feel like my hands hurt and like my abdominal, if I pushed on it. Not only was I bloated, but it just like my skin felt like it hurt. And it just went to show like how much chronic inflammation I was creating in my body at the time. And then the emotional anger and frustration about the vicious cycle just continuing on and on. So, and then of course, especially I noticed this, and it's not everybody. I know everyone thrives off of different ways of eating and eating different foods. But I really recall when I tried to be vegan, that's when my digestion was the worst, because I was binging and then trying to be vegan. And there's just so much fiber and the grains and some of the vegetables and things like that. And it just, I was always bloated. My stomach puffed up like a balloon all the time. And again, that was that inflammation. And then of course, if we're emotionally eating or binge eating and we're eating these foods over and over again, we're far more likely to stress out the integrity of our intestinal lining and poke microscopic holes. And then you have these bits of food particles and bacteria and foreign things going into the bloodstream. And then the immune system recognizes these as foreign invaders because they're not supposed to be in the bloodstream and then attacks them. And then you have more inflammation. And then all of a sudden you have food sensitivities and you're creating more food sensitivities. Like I remember when I stopped binging on refined sugar, gluten, and dairy, but then I was binging on nuts. Like I was addicted to cashews and almonds and bags of nuts. Like I couldn't for the life of me have nuts or nut butter in my house for at least 3 or 4 years because I had eaten so much of it that I had created a food sensitivity. And it was like I was then addicted to my food sensitivities. But essentially the more I often find with people, if they get food sensitivity testing done, the more sensitive they are to more foods, that to me is just a sign that the immune system is really stressed out. There's high inflammation in the body. And then it's important for us to work on calming the inflammation down. But what is even more importantly, and what is above that, is we need to have you overcome emotional eating. We need to have you build a healthy relationship with food and a healthy, positive body image, because the whole reason you're fighting with emotional eating and starvation is because of weight and because of an unhealthy body image and because of all this diet conditioning that's out there. It's like diets themselves are an addiction. And I'm definitely going to be sure to make note of that because I actually do want to talk more about this kind of diet conditioning and diet addiction. So it's so important to deal with this factor first because it's because of a mindset of not feeling good enough. It's because you don't feel worthy. You feel the need to punish yourself. You have yourself so convinced that you need to look a certain way, be a certain size to be good enough, to be loved, to have success, to have whatever it is that you want in your life and to be happy. So you're dieting and then things are triggering you and then you're falling off and you're going into binge eating or emotional eating and then you're freaking out because you need to restrict again to make up for it and compensate, and then you're falling back into the binge eating and the emotional eating. And 100% of the people who I have the complimentary consultation with say to me, I'm dieting, I'm trying to eat perfectly, I'm trying to eat a certain way, and I'm exercising, and I just can't figure it out. And as I've said before, and I will say again, when I ask the question, have you taken a different approach? Have you taken the approach where you overcome emotional eating, you really learn how to build a healthy relationship with yourself and with food, and you actually take the focus off of the weight? Doesn't mean you're not going to lose weight, but it's to take the pressure off and focus on actually getting healthy body, mind, and soul and in building that healthy relationship with food. And when I ask that question, 100% of the women I've asked it to have said, no, I have not taken that approach. So it just shows you how popular and the diet and fitness industry, especially the diet industry, is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. They just want your money. Their programs are not necessarily catered to fit each specific individual. And to spend the time that it takes to really overcome this, this is a journey that takes time. I have clients whom I've been working with for multiple years now because they want that deeper level of approach and they've dealt with more surface level things, and now they're able to get to the deeper level of healing, of balancing physical imbalances, because it took a certain amount of time to overcome the emotional eating to start to build a healthy, positive body image. It takes time. There's no quick fix that's going to give you that. I can tell you that with 100% confidence. It's willing to take the time to commit to your unique journey and to do your unique work, which is life's work, which is the most fulfilling work you will ever do. Mark my words on that. And then you get to experience the benefits, the healing, the optimal health, the high energy, no more cravings, no more wanting to go to food to punish yourself. You learn how to love yourself. You learn how to accept compliments and compliment yourself. You feel lighter emotionally and physically in your body. And you learn how to listen to your body. And I think that's one of the biggest gifts that I can teach people, is to learn how to listen to your body so that you know what to give your body every day. From an emotional standpoint, a physical standpoint, if you're spiritual, a spiritual standpoint. It's so important that we learn how to listen, because society is so go, 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 multitasking, and we're very unaware of our bodies. And I think that's one of the biggest breakdowns with health and well-being, is that we don't know how to listen, and therefore we expect one person, to tell us how to be healthy. And if that doesn't work, well, then what happens? So I think, we gain more power if we can learn how to build awareness with our bodies and give to ourselves. So when it comes to this, I can't stress enough how important it is to first overcome emotional eating. No amount of physical recommendations, food recommendations is gonna help balance your physical symptoms until you overcome emotional eating, because it is a huge emotional and physical stressor on the body that must be dealt with. And then once, things are really coming along there, then we can work more on some of the physical imbalances and really work on calming the inflammation down, digestion, etc. But it's so important to work on that first. So if you're going and seeing different healthcare practitioners and they're just giving you supplements, or they're telling you to follow a meal plan or a certain diet or to cut out a bunch of food sensitivities, and that just doesn't feel good for you, well, it's very understandable, because it's not necessarily helping you navigate overcoming emotional eating. And you may notice that the recommendations that are being given to you are not feeling effective. And that is because you need to get the big stressor out of the way first, so that you can really notice the difference with the other recommendations. So because there are a lot of intense emotions that come along with emotional eating or binge eating, as well as a lot of negative self-talk. So putting yourself down, calling yourself names, being really frustrated and angry with yourself, being in a negative mindset. I really believe we are beings of energy. Like Bob Proctor always says, if you put your finger under a microscope, you'd see all the cells vibrating. And I really believe we all vibrate at a different energy. And anger, frustration, guilt, worry, fear, shame, those are all really low negative vibration energies. And so if we're always sitting in that, people end up, quote unquote, saying that they're depressed or they get a lot of anxiety. I call it low mood. But the more we fight with ourselves, what do you expect? It's like if you're in a relationship and you're fighting with your partner all the time, it doesn't get better. It feels like it just gets worse. And when you're in a really healthy relationship, then it feels like things flow and it feels really good. And it's no different with a relationship with yourself. So it's so important that we work on the negative self-talk and that you learn healthy ways to express your emotions, including your negative emotions. You learn healthy ways to release anger, frustration, shame, guilt, sadness, worry, fear, and that we work on, again, healthy coping tools to help you manage your stressors, so that we can work on calming the inflammation down that has been created from the forceful act of punishing yourself with food, and then restriction and quick fixes and fad diets, negative self-talk, stress, and then how that's impacted your physical state of health. The No Sugarcoating Podcast is proud to partner with High Vibe Health. High Vibe Health is Alberta's only certified organic bone broth company and creator of Choco Broth, a chocolate bone broth drink that actually tastes like hot chocolate warm or chocolate milk chilled, and is gluten-free, dairy-free, and refined sugar-free, bone broth full, and paleo-friendly. Check out High Vibe Health online at www.highvibehealth.ca to shop their organic bone broths, bone broth soups, broth pops, and choco broth. Feel free to also visit them at their broth shop in Midnapore, Calgary, to take advantage of special offerings like gluten-free bone broth cookies. Delicious, love them so much. You definitely have to check them out. Again, that's highvibehealth.ca. Which brings me to my second point, which is inflammation and weight struggles. So what goes hand in hand with emotional eating is normally weight. So most people have a massive fear of losing control with their body, especially with their weight. So they try to restrict and use diets to control weight and exercise to control their weight. But the problem is when you struggle with emotional eating, you're also trying to use food to have control, because you feel out of control with many other things in your life, including your weight. And so you feel as though you can use food to control what you want to eat, how much you want to eat, when you want to eat it. And in that moment, it feels like you have some form of control, even though binge eating and emotional eating are just meaning that you're completely out of control. And again, it's sabotage. It's got nothing to do with self-love. Emotional eating is all about sabotage. So people struggle with their weight. A lot of people struggle with their weight. And one of the biggest reasons for that, again, is because people have an unhealthy relationship with food, with themselves, and with their schedules. And this comes from all mindset, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, feeling the need to people please, to prove you're good enough, overachieve, perfection. You need to overgive to others because your happiness is tied into someone else's opinion of you. This is not a healthy relationship with self. This is actually, in fact, a very unhealthy relationship to have with self, because you're giving so much time, energy, and emotion to others that you are not taking the time to slow down, stop, and check in with yourself to see what you need, what your body needs, why you're experiencing all the multiple symptoms you are that keep getting worse, why you can't stop emotionally eating, why you keep struggling with your weight, why you feel puffy and swollen and in pain and exhausted. If you don't take the time to step back and see what you need, chances are these things will not change. I wish I had a more what's the word I'm trying to think of, empowering, but as long as we're expending the majority of our human life giving to other people, it's very difficult for us to be optimally healthy, have a healthy relationship with food and a healthy relationship with ourselves. There has to be balance. And I'm not saying you only give to yourself, but I'm saying it's so important for you to start giving to yourself more. So my first point here with inflammation and weight struggles is, again, you have to deal with the emotional eating first. And part of that is looking at your schedule and looking at your stress levels. So pause the podcast if you need to, grab a piece of paper because we're going to rate some things, okay? So once you have your journal, your piece of paper, I want you to rate the following. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being extremely high, 1 being low, where would you rate your stress levels? So 10 is extremely high, 1 is really low. Where would you rate your stress levels? And after you've rated your stress, I want you to write down your top 3 to 5 things that stress you out. So is it finances? Is it relationship? Is it your body image, your relationship with food, your health, your job, your mindset, other people, unhealthy relationships? What are your top 3 to 5 stressors? And then I want you to rate the level of balance that you feel you have in your schedule. So if you're to think about your schedule or you're to open your schedule right now or your planner, and you were to look at how much free time you have for yourself versus how much you have working, giving to others, taking care of others, getting the kids here and there, whatever it is that you're doing for other people, okay? 10 is I have no time for myself, okay? 5 is balance. It's like I'm right in the middle. I'm really happy with what I'm doing. And 1 is I'm only giving to myself. I'm not, in balance. I am very much so just focusing on giving to myself. And sometimes we have to go into that mode to heal and to balance the body, to really overcome emotional eating. Like there were periods of time where if I had multiple emotional eating triggers through the week and I was feeling really overwhelmed, I canceled all my weekend plans and I stayed home because I knew that I really needed that time to do a lot of self-care and to de-stress and unwind. Otherwise, I knew if I went out with my friends or I hung out with my friends that I would totally go to food. So sometimes we need that one where we're just fully doing what we need to do for ourselves. And I find in the beginning when I coach some of my clients as well, they're really shifting to that. I'm not saying you have to do that, but just know, do not judge wherever you rate yourself on your scale. So 10 is no time for self and schedule, 5 is nice and balanced, and 1 is I'm only focusing on myself. And there's no negative there because ideally the goal is that you're between a 1 and a 5, where you're giving a lot to yourself, you're taking care of what is, that you need to do for others. But that you're not afraid to ask for help. You're not afraid to say no. You're not afraid to delegate and things like that. When you feel like you have to be everything, you have to be superwoman, superman, and you have to give to everyone else and you have to prove and be perfect and all that stuff, that's exhausting, that's draining. That's going to highly contribute to your stress levels. It's going to contribute to inflammation. It's probably going to trigger emotional eating, which is also going to fuel inflammation. And then over time, again, as the stressors pile up physically and emotionally, the body hangs on to weight. The body puts on protection because the body does not feel safe. And if you're new to the podcast, then this may be the first time that you've heard me talk about this. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I refer to weight as protection because I really feel like the body hangs on to or puts on protection when she or he does not feel safe, okay? I don't believe we need to forcefully diet and starve and over-exercise to lose weight. I think that that's so outdated and just not true. I think it is really getting to the core of what are the physical and emotional balances that you are struggling with that are making you feel unwell, that are triggering you to sabotage with food, that are making you fight with your body. That's what we need to understand so that we can take action from knowing what those root causes are and support those things to support you both physically and emotionally. I think one of the biggest pieces that is missed in most health and wellness is the emotional piece, is the slowing down, is dealing with the mindset. Because it can be so easy to go, well, I have inflammation, so okay, here's some turmeric and here's some supplements to help calm your inflammation down. But if you just take those supplements and don't change your schedule, don't change your mindset, don't overcome emotional eating, well, what really changes? You just have kind of like a Band-Aid. I think sometimes supplements can really help if there's high states of stress and things going on in the body, but we also have to address those core stressors as well. So schedules need to be looked at. So next, rating. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really high, 1 being low, where would you rate your level of digestive discomfort? So if you have bloating, your stomach's puffing out, your pants fit tight, you're having lots of gas, okay, you have cramping and pain, heartburn, acid reflux. Again, 10 is high, which means you're experiencing the symptoms all the time. 5 is a moderate amount. Maybe it's only a couple times a week, and 1 or 0. 1 would be like less than once a month. The 0, of course, is you're not having it at all. But which symptoms are you experiencing and where would you rate yourself? So 10 all the time, daily, 5 weekly, 1 once a month or less. Okay? Because inflammation, I really believe, starts in the gut. I know a lot of my colleagues who are experts in different fields of health and well-being also believe this. Some of the leading experts of the world also really believe this. Inflammation starts in the gut. And I already mentioned kind of the process of leaky gut where we overeat and eat too quickly, and then the microscopic holes are poked in the intestinal lining, and then we have the bits of foods and bacteria and things that end up in the bloodstream. But the digestive system gets stressed out, and the digestive system is a huge part of our immune system. And some people refer to it as another brain. And they say that the digestive system impacts mood and is a huge contributing factor dictating your mood, whether you have really great moods or whether you're in a low mood, depression, anxiety, those kinds of things. I really agree with that because I've seen people who substantially improve their digestion, get the inflammation out, overcome emotional eating, and their moods are just like, they are just like in love with the world and so happy with themselves, and they don't necessarily need medications anymore. They're a completely different person. And I know for me, when I was dealing with really severe digestive issues from stress from the emotional eating, I had such bad brain fog. My energy was so low. I was always in a low mood unless I was eating sugar, which was giving me like the heroin high pretty much. And I just felt awful all the time. I did not feel good when I was in the midst of my food addiction. So it's so important that we address the inflammation that starts in the gut. And that, again, is through overcoming emotional eating, dealing with our emotional state of health and our stress, the overbooked schedules, and also being able to thoroughly assess what is going on with your digestive health. When I work with people, I have specific tools that I use to assess your current state of health, all your digestive organs, your immune system, gut flora, candida, food sensitivities, stomach acid, blood sugar. These are all important things for us to know, as is the liver health and the health of your large and small intestine. I can usually tell very easily if someone has a high level of inflammation just by hearing their story and their symptoms and what they're struggling with. I've worked with hundreds of people now. I know it's very easy to pick this stuff out, and then that way we can start to, give some support and relief right away. But as I mentioned earlier, with the signs of inflammation, retention is like the water retention. Your rings aren't fitting properly on your fingers. Your clothes are fitting tighter all around. Your face feels more puffy and swollen. That's that retention, that swelling, that the water that your body hangs on to as a protective mechanism when there's inflammation. Redness. So redness is often tied to skin issues. So people who have psoriasis, eczema of different kinds, breakouts on the face, acne. This all signifies, I think, an internal response of inflammation from the digestive system. If you're having like breathing issues, asthma, lung stuff, like that's inflammation is a huge part of that as well. Some people feel really warm. They feel a lot of heat when it comes to being inflamed. You may notice if you get an injury that, yes, it hurts, but it may also feel very warm around that area. This is the immune response to do these things to go in and resolve the issue. But if your system's having to do this 24/7, it really overwhelms the body. And then, of course, pain. So some people, it's joint pain. Some people have autoimmune, like arthritis and things like that. Some people, they just complain to me, my legs hurt, my back hurts, my neck hurts. And then again, as they reduce the inflammatory load, they're like, wow, I don't have headaches anymore. Wow, my inflammation's gone. Wow, my legs don't hurt anymore. And it's so profound to witness the miracles and the changes that happen when we do take the time to go in and address the root causes. So if you are struggling with any of the things I just mentioned, the skin issues, the pain, the heat, the retention, the swelling, the clothes are, some days feel like they fit really tight and then some days they don't. These are potential signs you may be experiencing inflammation. Same with the bloating, the puffy stomach. It's very uncomfortable. And as I mentioned earlier, you may also feel like no matter what you eat, you get bloated. You feel very sensitive to a lot of foods. This may be a sign that there's a lot of inflammation going on in the body, that the digestive system is very stressed out, that your nervous system is very stressed out. Your hormones may also be really stressed out. That's usually a big part of this picture as well. Your gut flora, which is in your large intestine, believe it or not, we have like 7-8 pounds of bacteria. Tons of different kinds of bacteria in the large intestine. That is all part of this picture. And if we're binge eating and emotionally eating and then restricting and we're not dealing with that, we just add more stress and pressure to the digestive system, to all the systems of the body, and it impacts your overall state of health. And then I see people who will, get certain tests done and they score really high with their inflammatory markers. And then through going through overcoming emotional eating, balancing the gut and de-stressing, balancing the schedule, building a healthy relationship with their bodies, with their hormones, right? Mindful eating. All of a sudden, these markers are going back into normal ranges, and they're like, so grateful that they decided to take a different approach and not just keep dieting and restricting and then falling back into binge eating. I want to go back to this emotional concept. The stress you feel about weight gain, or the stress that you emotionally feel about not liking the way you look, has a huge impact, I believe, on inflammation. And I really speak for myself because I've gone through this. So the more stress I got about my body, the more weight I gained. The more that I worked on building a healthy relationship with my body and balanced my hormones and balanced my gut and healthy relationship with food, it just came off. Like I didn't have to put any effort into letting go of protection. It literally just came off. And I chatted with a client today and she's like, I haven't been weighing myself. She's like, I've just been focusing on loving myself. And she's like, I hopped on the scale and I lost this much weight. And she's like, I haven't even tried. But that's the point, is I don't want you to have to try and force your body to lose weight. I want you to focus on building a healthy relationship with yourself, emotionally and physically. And then without effort, it just happens because you reduce the inflammatory load. You get the multiple stressors out of the body that are making your body hang on. You create a feeling of safety and peace in your body, and you stop the forceful sabotage of emotional eating and diets and restriction. It just happens. This is what I want the world to hear and reprogram to, is it can be easy if we make it easy, but the more complicated and the more we fight with our bodies, well, the more difficult it becomes. So the more negative emotions you feel towards your body, and the more you are putting yourself down and you're bullying yourself and you're saying really mean things to yourself, this is going to make your body want to protect, want to hang on to inflammation, because you are literally fighting with yourself. You are at war with your body. Your body is always trying to heal, but it's that you get in your own way. And then your body only responds how your body knows how. And that's with different symptoms, because it's trying to compensate and it's trying to do this and it's trying to fix that and it's trying to balance that back out. But if it keeps getting more stress piled on top, how does it balance? How do you reach optimal health if you don't overcome the emotional eating, if you don't balance your schedule out, if you don't shift the focus away from diets and extreme things to really slowing down and learning how to take a different approach? What changes? From what I've observed in the last 6 years of coaching people and in my own personal journey over the last 10 years, nothing changes. The symptoms just get worse. And I don't say this to deter you. I say this because I hope that it empowers you to want to do something different, to stop the cycle of doing the same things over and over and getting the same results, which is more struggle, more symptoms, and continuing to lose hope in your health and your body and your life. I want you to try something different so that you can get a different outcome. That's what I want for everybody. And it has to be on your own time, and you have to want it for yourself. So this brings me to my last point, which is some tips to navigate inflammation. So I've said it before, I'll say it again, whether it's me that you resonate with or somebody else, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to get support with your weight journey, emotional eating, overcoming emotional eating, building a healthy relationship with your body, with yourself, with food, with your schedule. This is huge. We have to deal with these core foundational pieces first so that the body can have a huge weight lifted off emotionally and physically. And I'm not talking about physical weight loss. I'm talking about getting and building a more positive mindset, a more healthy relationship with your body, and supporting your body in a physical state as well, so that you just feel emotionally lighter, so you can breathe. When I have that first complimentary consultation with people and I tell them and encourage them, I don't want them to weigh in all the time. I don't want them to do extreme exercise. I want them to stop the dieting. They say to me, wow, I already feel a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I already feel so much better. The pressure feels like it's being taken off. That's what I want. I want you to feel like the pressure is coming off. If you've struggled with lots of inflammation, if you're struggling with autoimmune issues, bloating, digestive issues, hormone imbalances, skin issues, pain, and it's not going away, then I encourage you to take a different approach. I encourage you to seek out someone else and get a different opinion, because I often think one opinion is not enough unless you're satisfied and you really feel that guidance and that opinion is what you need. Seek out someone else's advice, expertise. If you've rated, the inflammation, the stress, the symptoms, the overbooked schedule all high, these are all really, really great indicators that it's probably potentially time for you to get support. Have a conversation at least. See if it feels like it resonates, because you don't want this to continue to build up and build up and build up. We want to prevent. We want to do preventative here. We don't want it to get to the point where something serious happens to you and it can't be reversed, which I think miracles are possible, but that it really impacts your life so deeply that you can't live a healthy life the way that you want to. We don't want it to get to that point. We want to prevent so that you can balance what you need to balance, learn a lot along the way, and build a healthy relationship with yourself. It's seriously the biggest gift that you can give yourself, and nobody can give it to you but yourself. You can get help and guidance, but truly it's up to you to want to go inside and balance the physical and emotional body and build that connection. It's fully possible. I've witnessed many people do it. You can have it too. Other things, of course, that are important for inflammation are sleep, regular hydration, eating regularly through the day. You can always start integrating more anti-inflammatory things like turmeric, cinnamon, garlic and onions, ginger, peppermint, your leafy green vegetables, your healthy fats, lots of good vegetables, right? There's things like that. Deep breathing is great for calming inflammation, calming the nervous system, self-care, slowing down your schedule. Those are very generic recommendations. So those are things you're going to see everywhere. So if you want that more in-depth level of support, that's where I would encourage you to reach out, take advantage of the coaching sale. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I really was looking forward to speaking to you about this today. I think inflammation affects so many people, and that it doesn't have to. I just think that we need to be willing and open to take the time to get to the roots as to why you're struggling with it, and then be willing to take the time and have the patience to really resolve it. Quick fixes are not going to do that. You taking the time is. And so if it took a year or two, it's like, how much of your life do you get back? And then you have so much longer to enjoy the shifts and the transformation that you've experienced, and you deserve to have that. You really are worthy. So I hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. Again, I've really enjoyed sharing it with you. The show notes can be found at amberapproved.ca /podcast/183. And as I always say, there's no better time than the present to take action on your health, action on overcoming an emotional eating, action on calming down your inflammation. So take action now. Don't settle for suffering is being your norm. It is not normal. Don't accept it. Strive for something more, which is that you deserve to have optimal health and a healthy relationship with your body and with food. It's fully possible. I want that for all of you. I hope you have a wonderful day, a great week, and I will look forward to sharing a whole new podcast with you next Sunday. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, review, and rate this podcast and share it with your friends. You can find me at amberapproved.ca and follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Amber Romaniuk. Join me next Sunday for another brand new episode and another step toward body freedom.